Poles gave the world a groundbreaking technology.
To było ryzyko
It was a business risk, but there was a vision and true leadership.
zmienił okulistykę.
It changed both Polish and global ophthalmology.
Była to technologia nieosiągalna.
This technology was beyond reach of the biggest players on the global markets.
Nikt wcześniej nie wprowadził.
Nobody had previously launched a device like that.
To w ogóle była zupełnie...
It brought a completely new quality,
No i taką
and
technologię
spectral OCT was a technology like that. Spectral OCT, the beginning of a true revolution.
Historia OCT zaczęła się
The history of OCT started in 1991 when it was pioneered at MIT in the United States by Professor Fujimoto and Professor Huang. Although groundbreaking, the technology wasn't widely applied in ophthalmic practice because acquiring a scan took too long and the image quality was still not there. So even though the concept was revolutionary, it was far from becoming a standard in clinical practice. That, however, was about to change with the arrival of spectral domain OCT technology, which provided incredibly fast scanning and high-quality imaging. It opened the door for the technology to be commonly used in ophthalmic practice, and thereby changed the face of medicine and ophthalmology.
Firma Optopol wdrożyła pierwsze na świecie
Optopol Technology introduced the first spectral optical tomograph in the world, which started a revolution in ophthalmic diagnostics.
Z tą firmą wiąże się historia dla nas dość ciekawa, ponieważ mieliśmy tą przyjemność w pewnym sensie.
The story that connects us with this company is quite special, because it gave us the opportunity to be the first clinic to ever use the first commercially available spectral OCT device, which was manufactured by Optopol Technology.
Na początku stycznia 2006
That was in early January 2006, and we all instantly knew that spectral OCT was going to revolutionize the field. Consequently, we decided to incorporate the device in our clinic and to use it to examine all of our patients. And that came with two very important benefits. Firstly, we had a chance to learn about the technology and better understand the imaging it provided. And secondly, it allowed us to, in a way, enhance our ophthalmic knowledge. I remember my wife telling me after a few months of using the device how she couldn't believe we had been working as ophthalmologists for 20 years without using OCT. After just a few months, we knew there could be no going back to providing eye care without a device like that.
pracować jako okulista, nie posiadając takiego urządzenia.
Wprowadzenie spektralnej tomografii optycznej okazało się rewolucją.
The introduction of spectral optical tomography was a revolutionary advancement due to its high speed and better imaging quality, but above all because it made the devices much more affordable. Manufacturing the world's first spectral domain optical tomograph was a global success.
Niewątpliwie tak, oczywiście.
Yes, definitely yes. This development was a major breakthrough. There is no doubt about it. It marked a pivotal moment in the field of ophthalmology not only in Poland, but also on a global scale. The impact of that breakthrough was gigantic, and I would like to emphasize that technologically, it was ahead of the rest of the world by 1.5 years, or possibly even more than that. In June 2006, there was a very important and exceptional congress that brought together the American Society of Retina Specialists and the European Vitreoretinal Society. Attended by about 3,000 ophthalmologists from around the globe, it was likely the world's biggest congress for retina specialists at the time. Held at the Film Palace in Cannes, it was called the Cannes Retina Film Festival, and it was where I first presented the results of examinations we had been conducting at our clinic. And as I said before, since we had been using the device to examine all of our patients, we had already gathered images covering a wide variety of conditions, and we were able to group them to show the capabilities of spectral OCT across different diseases.
Mogliśmy pogrupować poszczególne schorzenia, pokazując...
We also found ourselves significantly ahead of our colleagues in the United States. At that time, they were experimenting with a benchtop prototype, which only allowed them to show that obtaining an image was technically feasible. At our clinic, on the other hand, we were capturing hundreds of scans every day. rather than single images whose purpose was to showcase the results of ongoing research.
Wielomiesięcznej pracy naukowej.
I dare say that for the first few months, our device was probably the only fully developed and operational spectral OCT in existence. So practically, our colleagues from around the world, and especially from the United States, were not presenting actual devices. They relied on laboratory techniques which they used to demonstrate the feasibility of obtaining images.
Technik laboratoryjnych.
So they were working towards obtaining a single image of one patient, while at the same time, we were capturing scans of both eyes of every patient who visited our clinic. That was just a completely different level.
Serię obrazów z każdego oka u każdego pacjenta, który do nas przychodził do gabinetu. To w ogóle była zupełnie inna jakość.
Mnie się wydaje jednak, że to jest...
As far as I'm concerned, the magnitude of this innovation is comparable to the invention of the eye speculum in 1851 by Helmholtz, the German physicist and later on also ophthalmologist. The 19th century was the gold century of diagnostics because it gave us tools to see the fundus of the eye. OCT took it further with measurement capabilities, allowing us to measure the thickness of the retina and analyze morphology.
Zobaczyć morfologię.
Świat zareagował na spektralne OCT euforycznie. Dlatego, że
The medical community welcomed spectral OCT with excitement because although time domain OCT already existed, it didn't play a big role in routine eye care. Time domain OCTs had not become a common sight in doctors' offices around the globe because they were very slow and offered very poor image quality. Spectral OCT enabled doctors to see the inside of a live eye in a real patient, as opposed to depending exclusively on histological samples. And that provided an enormous stimulus for further development of retinal diagnostics. We can even say that this moment redefined the field. Because, like I said, up until then, we relied on histology and discoveries of prominent ophthalmologists who had been able to classify diseases. But it was only with the implementation of SD-OCT that their theories could be verified through imaging. So this technology deeply transformed ophthalmology.
zweryfikowało ich teorie, więc OCT zmieniło diagnostykę diametralnie.
Optopol keeps up the pace and introduces new innovative solutions, continuously developing its products.
SD-OCT Copernicus HR był kolejnym krokiem w rozwoju.
The company's next major development was the SOCT Copernicus HR. It doubled the scanning speed of the original SOCT Copernicus and provided a resolution of 3 microns, commonly known as ultra-high resolution. That allowed us to expand our customer base, which now included some of the most prestigious clinics in the world.
Kliniki na świecie.
Następnie, jako pierwsi na świecie,
We then were the first to introduce a high-resolution spectral OCT, the SOCT Copernicus HR. That device was too much ahead of its time, though, which is why it didn't see adequate demand on the market. And it is only now, in 2025, that high-resolution devices are finally becoming a thing. So it has taken quite some time for the medical community to become ready to benefit from this new technology, which delivers more detailed imaging of the retina.
siatkówki.
Kolejnym dużym krokiem było wypuszczenie
Our next milestone came with the launch of the Revo NX, which at the time was the fastest spectral OCT in the world. With its scanning speed of 110,000 scans per second, it was 4 times faster than the first generation of the spectral OCT.
spektralnego OCT.
Skupiliśmy się bardziej na
We focused more on making this technology easily available. We lowered the price and expanded the functionality of the device, improved its quality and operation.
jakości.
Optopol wyznaczył kolejny standard.
With the introduction of the Revo NX, Optopol set a new OCT standard. It was a dedicated posterior segment device which we equipped with an optical biometer. With the biometer, the device could measure the axial length of the eyeball, which consequently led us to pursue development and implementation of the corneal curvature measurement function, the so-called corneal topography.
Topografii rogówki.
Ta technologia, a więc technologia spektralnej OCT, przede wszystkim
This technology, the spectral OCT technology, first and foremost brought immense benefits for patients, which is something I cannot stress enough. Of course, higher scanning speed mattered from an engineering standpoint. There even was an analogy comparing time domain OCT to a traditional propeller plane and spectral OCT to a modern jet, which actually is a good illustration of the advancement. The new technology was indeed faster, safer, and more refined. But what we really need to answer is, what was the practical result of all of that? Well, spectral OCT allows us to look deeper and see more. We can examine more patients and visualize more structures that require evaluation. This means we can provide patients with treatment that is not only better, but also shorter, resulting in less downtime. So spectral OCT brings real-world effects. And that's exactly what translational medicine is about.
Jest mniejsza absencja, to ma przełożenie, to jest właśnie medycyna translacyjna.
Revo FC było pierwszym urządzeniem, które nazwaliśmy all-in-one.
The Revo FC was our first device that we called an all-in-one OCT. The reason for that was because we took a dedicated posterior segment device and expanded it with functions like axial length analysis, corneal curvature analysis, and imaging of the entire anterior segment of the eye. The device also offered both fundus and anterior segment photography capabilities. Until then, no other device had integrated such a wide range of diagnostic options.
Pokrywa tak dużą ilość możliwości diagnostycznych.
Byliśmy pierwszą firmą, która zrobiła w pełni automatyczne urządzenie.
We were the first manufacturer to launch a fully automatic device for obtaining scans. Originally, it was just an OCT, but today it is an OCT combined with a fundus camera, biometry, and angiography. And it is a concept that we continue to develop and improve. What sets us apart is that we are able to integrate virtually all functionalities in a single device, which means that instead of buying 4 or 5 separate devices, our clients only need to buy one. I believe our biggest strength is the fact that we provide some of the best devices out there, featuring the broadest range of functionalities at reasonably affordable prices. Although Optopol commercialized spectral OCT, it is not the only technology we have been developing, as we continue to enhance our devices with further diagnostic modules. And apart from OCTs, we also produce perimeters, which are very well recognized around the globe.
Do tego sprzedajemy też perymetry, które są bardzo dobrze rozpoznawalne na całym świecie.
Wprowadzając na rynek Revo FC 130,
With the Revo FC 130, we once again raised the standard for scanning speed in spectral optical tomography devices. We also started work towards obtaining the FDA certification. To establish a foothold in the American market, we created a US subsidiary, Optopol USA, to streamline the distribution of our products in the United States. Currently, we offer perimeters and have started the FDA certification procedure for our optical tomograph. Our latest development is the Revo HR. It is a high-resolution OCT, which for us marks a return to the technique which we first launched in 2008. We believe that today ophthalmology is ready for high-resolution imaging, which enables observation of the slightest structural changes. Recent publications prove that there is still a lot to learn by examining these small changes. And that's where high-resolution comes in. The competitor technique to spectral OCT, the so-called swept source technique, offers high-speed scanning, but unfortunately at the cost of lower resolution.
Aby obserwować te drobne zmiany, potrzebujemy wysokiej rozdzielczości. Technika konkurencyjna do techniki spektralnej, tzw. swept source, oferuje duże szybkości skanowania, ale niestety niższą rozdzielczość.
The Revo OCTs are the embodiment of a revolution that continues to this day.
Na dzień dzisiejszy Optopol posiada
Today, we have a global network of 100 distributors. We operate 3 R&D centers and have a talented team of over 250 employees. The volume of our current production far exceeds our expectations from just a few years ago. Our vast experience and continuous investment in, for example, artificial intelligence, let us build ever better devices with quality that we could only dream of at the start of our journey.
My możemy szybciej choroby diagnozować, lepiej choroby diagnozować.
We are now empowered to diagnose diseases better and faster. Not only can we better describe the situation in the eye, but also document our work. At the current stage of medical advancement, it is not enough to have a feeling or an opinion about what's going on in the eye. You need evidence, and that evidence is provided by spectral OCT. We can say that in relation to a number of conditions, such as macular hole, inverted ILM flap technique, or epiretinal membrane, this technology allowed us to create a whole new field which we had not focused on deeply. That includes surgery of vitreoretinal disorders, vitreoretinal traction syndrome, epiretinal membrane, lamellar macular holes, full-thickness macular hole, and other less common conditions. If it hadn't been for the development of spectral OCT, we would have never come this far through reasoning without visualization.
Całą nową dziedzinę, która dla nas była w zasadzie nie do zdobycia i nie do osiągnięcia mentalnie bez techniki spektralnego OCT.
Dziś firma Optopol to wielka, międzynarodowa firma, która sprzedaje...
Optopol today is a major international company, selling devices in more than 100 countries. But what's important is the fact that it has grown out of a family business, which gave us individual approach to people, which is something we don't want to lose. I think this is what sets us apart.
Myślę, że Optopol przeszedł długą drogę.
Optopol has come a long way, and this company would not be what it is today if it hadn't been for the courage of late Adam Bogdani, the company's founder. That should be remembered. I always make sure my students know that, because this technology is not limited to just ophthalmology. It is also used in cardiology and vascular medicine. So students of the faculties of medical sciences and dentistry, but also optometrists, know that the best OCT, in my opinion, is manufactured right here, in the Polish province of Silesia, in the town of Zawiercie.
Tutaj, stąd z województwa śląskiego, z Jury, z Zawiercia.